if the Eagles don't try to get their run game straightened out, and if they want Jalen Hurts to throw it 40 times, the Giants' pass rush is pretty good. It's very good, actually.
We got Les Bowen in the green room, Johnny Mac. Let's bring Les in and see what he thinks of this Eagles offense as we prep now for Eagles versus the New York Football Giants. They might be second on the totem pole today, guys. That doesn't happen often in Philly with the Eagles. Philly's got a playoff.
I would say definitely.
You think so? I don't know, man. I don't know. The Eagles are dominant, but you're right. This is kind of a boring game. Let's bring Les Bowen in right now. You can follow him on Twitter at Les Bowen. Les, what's going on, man? Welcome to the program here on a Thursday game day.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Les. Who are you more excited about, the Phillies or the Eagles?
The Eagles. The Phillies, if they win tonight, I guess you get excited. But
all right.
They're still, they lost last night.
Well, yeah.
This is one of the all-time postseason debacles in Philadelphia history. And they won a game, and Topper, after bringing in Ranger Suarez and having him give up a home run to the first batter he faced, Topper had pretty much put the cherry on top of whether he should be fired or not had they lost that game. So they didn't, and that's great. But I'll be watching the Eagles certainly and kind of checking in on the Phillies.
Well, it's rare because I remember we were down in Houston when they went to the World. That was interesting because they were playing the Astros.
Yeah.
And that was one of the rare times. I remember the Eagles were watching that game in the locker room after they had an ugly game against the Texans, but they persevered and won the game. And then they were watching the World Series, which the Astros ended up winning. And all the fans were happy, even though the Texans were lost. It was really a weird type of situation. But I get this. It's not the World Series, obviously, but because of the Giants, because of the opponent, Jackson, I mean, there's nothing they can hang their hat on. And poor Malik Neighbors. He's a great player. He tears his ACL. Boy, New York football, Les. It's been a long time. They can't get anything right there.
Well, I think they're really focused on Jackson Dart right now and how he does look like he has a chance to be. I think they're overhyping him a little bit because if you get any shred of hope in a situation like that, you want to cling to it. You would think from reading what is written up there that he was Tom Brady or something. But I do think he looks promising, and that's kind of what that and Abdul Carter, I guess, are their building blocks. And, but the GM that they have,
Shane,
that's just they're not going to build a Super Bowl team with that structure in place. So, things are
it's interesting. And Brian Daboll, who, Nick Sirianni has a lot of respect for. Boy, I don't know. I would have stuck with Russell, but they have to sell hope. You get in these situations where it's like, and it's almost business. Like Jackson Dart, I mean, he can run the football. He's had 2 starts, so it's a very small sample size. But his longest pass completion in those 2 starts is 18 yards.
Yeah.
It's like, boy. We talk about ugly football here, and I don't know if you heard me in the green room, but I mean, the Eagles' offense is just ugly. I've come to grips with that. I've come to grips with it.
What did you think of that Kevin Patullo press conference yesterday?
Well, I like Kevin personally. I'm above board. He's a good guy. But I mean, the bottom line, it's a position where they're not having success on the field. So I look at everybody. I look at Nick Sirianni. I look at Kevin Patullo. I look at Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, AJ, all on down. Nobody's performing to their optimum level.
I said yesterday. I meant 2 days ago. Yesterday was Nick, who was perhaps even less forthcoming than Kevin had been.
Kevin before. At least gives you a little bit.
Yeah.
Like I remember I used to have these discussions with Shane Steichen where he would get uber frustrated. They ran a lot of RPOs back then.
Mm-hmm.
And from the offensive play caller standpoint, like when you call an RPO, they don't consider that like a called pass because it can go
Right.
different ways. In the case of the Eagles, it could go RPR. It could go run to Barkley, pass, run to by Jalen Hurts. So they consider that calling a run play.
Yeah.
Now it ends up they ran 6 of them. He was explaining it. You could tell he wanted to get it off his chest. And it all turned into passes for whatever reason, whether Jalen Hurts read them correctly or not. It all turned into pass. But I don't know. When they start getting frustrated and they hear that outside noise, I never think it's a good thing, Les.
Yeah.
I never think it's a good thing. Like, who cares what we think? You can't worry about what we think.
True. Yeah.
And if you are, that's in a negative direction. So I'll ask you about the big meeting. When you heard about that, what was your first thought?
I guess it's good. I don't have an inside grasp of how these guys are actually interacting on a day-to-day basis. I never thought there was any huge problem among that group. But if they felt like they needed to sort some things out and maybe reinforce their bonds or something, I guess that's a good thing. I don't think it could be a bad thing unless they were yelling at each other or something. Things like that don't really move the needle much for me.
That's where I was. I'm like, yeah, all right. Hopefully it worked. It was
I
positive.
kind of figured Les would say that, John. I knew Les would be on that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all right. I don't understand why they would have great frustrations with each other. I don't really think Hurts is Brown's problem. Brown could have, as there's been dissected over and over again, Brown could have helped himself a lot by getting his butt out there and catching that ball that could have put the game away the other day. But their problems are with the design of the offense and the way the plays are being called. And I don't think those 3 guys are going to change that a whole lot unless they mutiny and just take over the offense among themselves.
Well, where do you think Jalen Hurts is in this? Is it just he's running an offense that isn't very imaginative, isn't very creative, and it's their fault? It's Nick and Kevin's fault, or is it they're building around Jalen Hurts and that's why it's creative? Which chicken and the egg are you there?
Probably a little bit of both, but more the former. I think Hurts can do a lot of things. There are things that he doesn't like to do that I think they do try to avoid, but they didn't design any runs for him Sunday. I just don't. I think it's more the offense. I think this problem with zone defenses is more the offense.
Yeah, that's weird too, by the way.
They run a lot of routes where if you're the receiver who's not the primary guy, you're just kind of trotting around out there and you're not even looking for the ball. This is why they have a horrible scramble drill. I've never seen a team where if you give the quarterback like 10 or 15 seconds, it gets worse and worse and worse in terms of what you might get.
That's a good point, Les, because they should be good at that by now because they have a quarterback who scrambles so much. And
they don't come back to the ball. They just sort of all stand there. I wonder what's going to happen now. It's unbelievable to me. I just don't think it's a well-coached system, like you said, I would say it was a good offense. The weirdest thing is it was a really productive offense. If you remember when they were 10-1 2 years ago, it was a really productive offense. They were scoring a ton of points. And the issue then was that they couldn't stop anybody, and they were winning games 34-33 and stuff like that. And Hurts was having to pull it out of his rear end. And then the offense kind of got tired of doing that. And the defense got so bad that they just all, the whole thing, Hurts started throwing the ball around and throwing interceptions. And, I think they felt they had to score touchdowns every time they touched it. And, the season crashed and burned. But other than that, it's been a horrible offense. You're right. It was not last year it was the Saquon Barkley. And, once you really made it a huge problem for the opposing defense in a game, then they had passing success if they wanted it as well. And the defense was so good that, you didn't need a ton of points to win. But it wasn't pretty, as you said. And
How do you evaluate Kevin Patullo, Les?
What about Kevin?
How do you evaluate him so far through his first 5 games?
To me, it's just like you've got another Nick there, and I don't think that's what you need. I think Nick is a great leader, but I don't think he's a great offensive mind. And I don't think, you need somebody whose entire professional existence is wrapped up in being Nick's guy. I think you need somebody with a different perspective somewhere, and they don't have it. Now, some of this could be, just working through stuff and trying to get straightened. They could be a better offense as we go along. The offensive line could get healthier. I think that's been probably a decent chunk of the problem, but I sure would like to see some things that we're not seeing from this group. The whole thing with the not getting to the line.
Yeah, that is a big problem, Les, number one. And it has been a big problem for years, but they've gotten even worse.
Yes. And the play that nobody really talks about, everybody talks about the A.J. Brown play from last Sunday. The play where they had the 30-yard 4th and 4 completion to the Denver 21-yard line with 5 minutes left, called back because they were hurrying through a bunch of motion shit with, without time to run it. That's just awful. That's not a game 5 problem there, and
that was the proper call to those upset. I mean, the Saquon did not get set.
Right.
Got to get set.
It had nothing to do with what happened. I mean, Jalen Hurts threw a 30-yard completion on 4th and 4. But
it was a great play. Called back because they didn't have time to get set. And it was Saquon didn't have time. They were up against the play clock and had to snap the football. And I didn't pay that much attention to it. I'll be honest, last year, but they were 31st in the NFL last year, winning the Super Bowl. Now they're 32nd. They're dead last, and it's gotten even worse. And Nick went on this whole soliloquy about how many things have to come into play. Right. Well, the bottom line to me, Les, is everybody else has got to go through that same stuff as well.
Exactly. They don't have any challenges in calling a play that are any different from any other team in the NFL. Now, is their terminology too elaborate? Do they have too many elements to their play call that it's hard to get all this translated?
I find that hard to believe.
I don't know. I mean, obviously,
I find that very hard to believe.
Me too. But and people are blaming Hurts for this. Okay, I guess it could be his fault, but to me, and maybe I'm really ignorant here, but to me, all he does is listen and then tell everybody else what they're going to do, and then they go to the line. How is it him? Maybe it is, but.
Well, and by the way, when you talk about motion and getting caught with the motion on that particular play, they're bottom 10 in the league every year. They're usually bottom 5.
Yeah.
So
they are doing it more this year, I think, but
a little bit more, but they don't do it as much as some teams who don't have as many issues getting the play off. So that to me is maybe the biggest problem of all. And I don't know who to blame.
Yeah.
It could be the quarterback. It could be Kevin getting the plays in too late. I don't think it's verbiage.
Yeah.
So
it's not good. I mean, they talk about details and hard work and all this stuff. And these are these are not things that have to do with physical talent or anything like that. These are things you ought to be able to to fix in practice and in meetings. Like they had a little bit of a tangent, but they took 9 penalties Sunday. 6 of them were on the offense.
Yeah.
3 of them were false starts
At home. At home.
That sequence with the 30-yard completion, that was the second offensive penalty of that sequence. They had, I believe it was either a false start or was that the sequence where Toth was downfield illegally on the RPO?
It's funny, the RPOs, and here come the illegal man downfield. That's why they don't run them. Why are they running them again?
Yeah,
I don't know. There's a lot of questions, but I will say they're not new. That's what concerns me. Like, I know people want to blame Kevin, and maybe it's his fault. I'm not saying it's not his fault, but these are things that all existed before he was the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
It's been the same offense pretty much. I mean, Kellen Moore tweaked it a little bit, but he didn't put in his offense. We eventually figured that out. We kept looking for it.
Does it need to be tweaked again, Les? Like last year it worked because they had that running game. You know, like if you're not going to have that, can they win this way? Is it fair for me to think like that? Am I off base on it? How do you see that part of it? Because look, last year they won, Les, by defying modern football. You can't really do that unless you have a historic run game, and really they had a historic defense too, or close to a historic defense. Certainly was the best in football last year. If you don't have those two things, is this a recipe to go the distance? What do you think about that?
Good question, Zander. I think you can be a lot more efficient. Like I was saying about the penalties. I mean, they'll have to run the ball better than they're running it now. I mean, there's no way you can have Saquon Barkley and be as bad at this as they are at the moment. And a little bit of it has to do with teams really focusing on what they do. They have to figure out some ways to get around that. But they have to pass it efficiently, and they can do that. I think Hurts could have had another 100 yards of passing Sunday if guys had run the routes like they were supposed to, if they don't take that stupid motion penalty, on a 30-yard completion. I mean, it's detailing your work. It's there. I don't think there's any reason why they can't be that was a good defense they were facing, and I thought that, there were a lot of opportunities for success. But the defense still is very good. I mean, it gets ground down when you go 3 and out over and over and over again in the second half, as they've done the last 2 weeks. But it's still a good defense. You're not going to have to score 40 points a game to win. I just think they have to be better at the details, and the offensive line has to get healthier. That is part of this. It really is.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like we've done an entire show. We haven't talked about that defense, which I'm pleasantly surprised. I think after all the attrition in the offseason, I expected them to have more problems than they have had. I think it's been pretty seamless for the most part. But I'm a little bit concerned, Les, about the inability to get home on the pass rush.
Yeah, the edge rush. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jalen Carter, I don't know. You probably know better than I how much this is affecting him. He's got a couple of injuries going right now.
Well, the shoulders definitely affected him.
Yeah.
Now he pops up with the heel. That's new. So, he hasn't been the same, but you still see he's impactful, certainly.
Yeah.
People pay attention to him, and that's opening things up for.
But I think the premise this year was that he was going to be so incredibly dominant up the middle that they didn't need a great edge rush, that they could get by having lost, Sweat and Graham and now you got Nolan Smith down for several weeks, and you don't have a great edge rush at all. And and Carter's not, really dominating games the way he was. And you've got a problem there, I think. And they can't stop the run, which isn't the biggest thing in the world, but it's it's kind of a nickeling problem that you want
Yeah.
to fix.
I almost think, and I say it all the time, I think Vic is willing to give that up a little bit, even
Yeah.
though he would never admit it.
Right.
But as long as he can stop the run okay with a 4-man front, keep that extra guy in
Right.
coverage. I did want to ask you, with somebody who went through, boy, a lot of bad linebacker play over the years, and all the Paul Warlows and Corey Nelsons and Eric Wilsons, and all of a sudden Zach Bowen and Jihad Campbell.
Yeah.
Did you ever think you would see this kind of linebacker play with the modern Philadelphia Eagles?
It's a different universe, and it's amazing. And I really think that whole philosophy emerged in the early 2000s, when suddenly it became such a passing league, and you didn't need run stopping linebackers anymore, and things hadn't evolved to where they are now with the passing game to the tight ends and so forth, where you needed to be really good over the middle against the pass. There was kind of maybe a half a decade in there when it really wasn't important to have good linebackers, but that time passed, and the Eagles kept to that philosophy of whatever happens, we'll be okay. Alex Singleton, whatever, Moses Foyku, sure. And every now and then they would spend a draft pick on one, and it wouldn't, like Jordan Hicks, they never re-signed him because he kept getting hurt. And some other guys, they had a guy, Matt McCoy, they drafted in the second round. It was terrible.
Matt McCoy,
yeah. That was the guy in training camp. They were having one of those thud periods, and he was trying, his rookie year, he kept trying to impress the coaches by just blowing people up. Running back would get to the edge, and Matt McCoy would run over and just throw him down. And they had to stop practice and basically explain to this guy, no, you're not, we're not impressed. This is not what you're supposed to do. Somebody's going to get hurt. And I knew right then that this guy probably wasn't real smart. And no, he was not good. But, when they did spend a draft pick on him, they spent it on the wrong guys usually. And it's just not been anything that they were good at doing. And they still kind of kept that mindset of it's not important until Vic Fangio came along and insisted that it was. Because I really think to play Vic's defense, you absolutely need the good linebackers. I don't think his defense works at all without that. So, it's a great thing that. And bringing Nakobe Dean in, everybody's wondering, should they trade him or some crazy, guys get hurt. I mean, if you lost,
guys get hurt all the time. Nakobe got hurt. Lord Burks.
Terrible mistake. So let's keep Nakobe Dean around here.
Yeah, what are you going to get, a 6th rounder? I'd rather keep that.
Right.
Well, Les, I'll say this: I have very little concerns on the defense right now, and I'll tell you why. First 2 weeks, they gave up 20 to the Cowboys and 17 to the Chiefs. I think we can all agree those are pretty good outputs in the modern NFL. In the Rams game, the Eagles' offense was inept in the first half of the game. The defense, when the offense came alive, only gave up 1 second-half touchdown, 7 points. It was at the beginning of that half. We remember that. Go to the Buccaneers game. They gave up 2 field goals in the first half when the Eagles' offense moved the ball. In the second half, that's when things fell apart offensively, and that's when the Buccaneers start putting points on the board. Same thing last week. Broncos had 3 points for most of the game. Offense stops moving the football in the second half, and boom, 18 straight unanswered. It feels like every time this offense gets bottled up, has 3 and outs, and can't move the football, which it feels like it's good for a half a game of ineptitude, that's when the defense buckles a little bit. I really don't think we have much defensive problems. In fact, I feel really good about the defense right now with all the changes they had coming off that Super Bowl season. I think they're playing way ahead of schedule. 74 snaps last week, 72 in Tampa. You're gonna mess up the defense if you keep this up, but it's not the defense's fault really.
I agree with you but the offense if the offense continues like this, you'll have more defensive injuries,
Right.
and you'll see problems develop.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I agree.
At Les Bowen, make sure you follow Les on the X platform. You can read them still at PHLY, at PHLY_sports. So check him out there. Still doing a great job writing about this team. To me, this team's not used to losing, Les, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I think they took the loss last week a little bit harsher than they should have. But to me, this is a great week. It's never a great week to play on Thursday night. We all hate those games, but you want to get back on the field quickly. And this is a perfect opponent. I mean, the Eagles have dominated this team for a decade. It's not a very good football team. Is there any chance for the New York Giants in this game tonight?
Yes. If the Eagles don't try to get their run game straightened out, and if they want Jalen Hurts to throw it 40 times, the Giants' pass rush is pretty good. It's very good, actually. And you got Brett Toth in there. And yeah, they could design this. They could screw themselves into, sacks and fumbles and interceptions and things like that, and somehow lose the game. It shouldn't happen, but I don't think it will happen. But that would be the way right there. I don't think the Giants are going to score a lot of points without their two best wide receivers. And I don't think the Giants' offensive line is any good. I don't think the defense is going to give up much. But if the Eagles turn the ball over against this fierce pass rush, that would be the way. But that hasn't been a problem this season, turning the ball over. So I'm going to assume that don't happen. But Abdul Carter against Brett Toth is not ideal. And you want to try to avoid relying on that a whole lot in pass protection.
Yep, no doubt. Les, we appreciate you joining in today, brother. Great stuff. Final thought. You got a prediction for the game tonight? What do you think here for this game?
Oh my. Okay, let's say Eagles 20-10.
Oh,
I don't think it's going to be
20-10.
I don't think
they're
going to suddenly become the team we all envision them being, but I think they will sort of stumble through this and win.
I got you. Les, good stuff, man. We appreciate you joining in. As always, giving us some time. It's always appreciated. Thank you, Les. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, guys.